Let's pick up on with some of those points in Aruna's report. Peterzalmayev is director of the independent non-profit Eurasia Democracy Initiative. Peter, you join us from Kiev. There seems to be two distinct narratives coming from the West, with the US saying that a possible attack is imminent. Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, however, saying that do not whip up panic, do not whip up this hysteria. Where is the truth in this?
I think both sides have a little bit of truth. The U.S. has justified this policy as megaphone diplomacy, trying to basically oust, and out Vladimir Putin's intentions so volubly, and trying to be preemptive, doing so, trying to cut off each, of Russia's intention, which has its potential drawbacks, such as goading Vladimir Putin into action or making him feel like he has no other options but to act. There's a potential downside to that strategy. Vladimir Zelensky is understandably, as leader of a country, he's concerned about the economy tanking, investors fleeing, diplomats fleeing, and sowing panic on the streets of Ukrainian cities. This is understandable. At the same time, Zelensky is also facing a barrage of criticism from his opposition, who criticizes him for being blind to the clear and present danger that Russia has mustered on Ukraine's borders.
So how close are we, do you think, of a possible a live conflict as such? Do you think that this idea that the US is talking about, this possible pretext, the Russians creating an attack on themselves in order to have an excuse to go live with this, is that feasible? Is that credible?
A full country invasion, while it's still on the table and is theoretically possible, would be dismissed by most, political and military analysts here in Ukraine. There is a variety of options still at Vladimir Putin's disposal that would satisfy his needs. He really wants to pull off, I would call a Yalta II, a sort of an agreement between large powers to try to renegotiate world order, security architecture around Ukraine. Or I would also call it Minsk III, trying to renegotiate the Minsk agreements that were signed in 2015. That would, in fact, block Ukraine's Euro integration and movement towards NATO by other means, diplomatic means. Whether Ukraine will go along with it is probably is difficult to answer. Vladimir Putin once again would face stiff opposition here internally for going along with it, because that would allow eastern parts of Ukraine, Russia-controlled parts of Ukraine, to control Ukraine's foreign policy. But Putin wins either way. If Zelensky doesn't go along with it, then Putin can use that as an excuse to store up trouble in eastern Ukraine. If he tries to go along with it and is defeated by the opposition, and there's another Maidan on the streets of Ukraine and there's chaos, that's also something that would satisfy Vladimir Putin. He wants instability and chaos in Ukraine.
I wonder, Peter, Donetsk and Luhansk, those eastern areas, is that it for them? Of course, Volodymyr Zelensky would never say that he would agree for them to be annexed, as we saw with Crimea. But is the situation there that they are so now removed from the rest of Ukraine that it will be impossible for them to ever come under the rest of the country's full control?
It is a million-pound question. Obviously, it could not be part of Ukraine's official doctrine to recognize, whether de jure or de facto, the annexation of Crimea or the Donbass. But if you were to ask Ukrainians on the street about the Donbass and whether they want it back in Ukraine, it will probably be a very, very hard question to answer. Most Ukrainians would probably be willing to see the conflict in eastern Ukraine frozen permanently, precisely because it is very difficult to contemplate reintegrating these areas after 8 years of indoctrination by the Russian Federation.
Yeah, very complicated situation. Peter, thanks very much for your expertise. Peter Zalmayev, Director of Eurasia Democracy Initiative. Thank you.